So, just for the interview, I'm here with Peter Daltrey, of Kaleidoscope, Fairfield Parlor, and a long, tremendous solo career. Um, thank you so much for joining me. I am, as I mentioned, a huge fan of yours, um, and especially your writing too. So,
Oh,
um,
that's nice. That's nice of you to say that. Yeah. No, it's great. It's great to speak to you, and it's like I always say to people who just contact me out of the blue. It's nice to think that people still remember the old band, and nice to still be here as well.
yes, yeah. And you're in London, right?
No, I'm not. No, no.
Where are you at now?
I'm out in the country.
Nice.
I come from London. My wife and I both come from London, but when the band broke up. Um, I didn't have any money, just a few £100s. You couldn't get anywhere in London for that. So we moved out to the country and bought a tiny 300-year-old cottage for, I think it was £900, which is wouldn't even buy you a second-hand car nowadays. But yeah, and never look back. We love the country. We're in Wiltshire, so it's close to Stonehenge and Avebury. It's right between the two. So a magical area to be in. The countryside is just beautiful around here.
I can only imagine. So that's amazing. I was in Spain for a few years before I got to Boise. So
Yeah,
the Galician countryside.
yeah,
Um, so of course, as a lot of my listeners know, of your album Tangerine Dream, which was recorded under Kaleidoscope, the name Kaleidoscope. Um, we can go over just a little bit of that since that's how a lot of my listeners know you as
yeah. Of
Tangerine.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was. We started out as the Sidekicks. We changed the name to Key for a little while, but our main focus fairly quickly was that Ed and I realised that to get anywhere, you're going to have to write original material. I mean, the Stones found that out fairly early on, didn't they? They were doing blues stuff, and then they got some Lennon McCartney track, and all things like that. But everybody knew that music was changing, and we weren't interested in writers from Tin Pan Alley or the usual sort of straightforward stuff. And for some reason, I don't know why, I can't explain it, but Ed and I started writing. The roles fell naturally to Ed writing the music, and I wrote the lyrics. I would write the lyrics first, give them to Ed, and then after a couple of weeks or so, he'd ring me and say, well, let's get together. I've got some of those songs I want to play you. And we'd get together. He lived in Acton, and he was always a bit nervous about playing me the songs, for the first time. So we used to go down the local Chinese restaurant and have a meal together and a chat, which was lovely. I have very fond memories of that. And then on the
Yeah.
way back to his house, we'd buy a bottle of the cheapest wine we could find. We'd both get incredibly drunk, and that would give Ed the strength to play me the new songs. And I mean, invariably, most of them I liked anyway. We would tweak bits and pieces, to knock them into shape, and then we'd take them to the rehearsals, which we used to do every week at a local school hall, and play them to Dan and Steve, and we'd all chat about it and decide what we want to do with it and how we would approach the arrangement. And that's how the songs came about. But I mean, we didn't have anywhere to put them because all we were doing was writing songs and playing together in the school hall once a week. I mean, we had a few club gigs, like tiny little clubs, youth clubs, where all the kids wanted to do was fight all the time. They weren't slightly interested in us. Well,
Yeah.
we did a few weddings, which was we used to get on stage and think, oh wow, everyone's come to see us, but no, they'd either come to have a damn good fight, or come to get married and get drunk.
One of my favorite story, one of my favorite stories of an interview I heard you speaking about was you were so terribly shy that your
Yeah,
first kind of band practice with as Kaleidoscope, you put the music stand in front of your face.
yeah, it's a funny thing because I've been shy all my life. It's just weird. I don't know why, but yeah, it's odd. I actually, you know, 'cause Ed and I were working together in London. That's how I met Ed, bless his heart. And he said one day, "Do you want to join my band?" I didn't even know he was in a band, although really, you know, that time of year was that time of the 60s was fantastic because, you know, the Beatles had already erupted in 62 and this
Mhm.
was 1964, so we were well into it, and all the Liverpool bands were out as well. Everybody loved music, and London was just so special at that time. I mean, it's difficult to describe to anyone. I know it's, you know, the 60s, but it was just starting. It was just coming out of the 50s. I mean, London was very backward, really. We were still getting over the Second World War. There were still bomb sites around when, you know, I joined the band. I went to the school hall for the first time, actually on my 18th birthday, 25th of March. And I've completely forgotten what you said to me. Oh, yeah, no. Right, okay, so there we are. I was, you know, I liked Ed. I loved Ed. He was a great guy. And he said, well, come down and meet the band. And I thought, oh my God, you know, go and meet the band, you know, musicians. Bloody hell, they're gonna be weird. They're gonna be, you know, real sort of tough guys and, you know, real musicians. Because I got there and met Dan and Steve. They were gorgeous guys. They, you know, oh, Dan's one of my favourite people still. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
But of course, then they said, "Well, come on, can you sing?" And I said, well, I haven't got the faintest idea what I can sing. I'd love to sing. You know, I used to follow Buddy Holly and Del Shannon, people like that, and probably do what everybody did, sing along to the records, you know, at home with my mum and dad. But I didn't know whether I could, to be honest, no idea. But yeah, to cover my absolute embarrassment, you know, I used to get music stand with the words on for the songs, and I did, you know, strategically place it between me and and the rest of the band. Yeah, I got over that fairly quickly, as the guys were lovely.
Yes. And to touch base, something that I had heard you discuss, because I had wondered, I'm like, I listened to Tangerine Dream and even Fairfield Parlor, is it Home to Home? From Home to Home. And I'm like, how is this not everything isn't a hit? It's such a beautiful album. Both of them are just your storytelling and the way you write, even the recording and the production is so incredible. And I've always wondered why it didn't gain popularity. And you mentioned that it came out and you missed that summer of love by just a few months, right?
Yeah, if we're still talking about Tangerine Dream, then yeah, I mean, after we got these songs together, Ed and I approached record companies, didn't get anywhere. We approached the publisher, and that was our way in. He introduced us to Fontana, and we got our record contract. And our producer, Dick Lee, he was very keen. I mean, he was very, very excited. The whole record company thought they had the new Beatles, which a lot of record companies did at the time. That's what they were looking for. But we did hear somebody say that. But I mean, it didn't mean anything to us because everyone probably said that. But yeah, the album, we were recording the album right through the spring and early summer of 67. And the plan was to bring it out right in the middle of the summer, which would have been fabulous. But
Mhm.
Ed and I came up because we didn't, you know, they weren't thinking about singles at that time. They were thinking about, you know, we were an album band from day one. But
Mhm.
we played Dick a song called "A Flight from a Shear," and that sort of changed everything. He dragged us into the studio that night straight away as soon as he'd heard it. And that came out. They wanted to put that out first as a lead up to the album, so that's why the album got pushed back to November, I think it was. But of course, we missed the Summer of Love. You know, we missed that. So, but anyway, we were in '67. We were in that very, very short psychedelic period. You know, it didn't last long. It was 18 months, if that. And we were just lucky to be recording it in that period. But were we psychedelic? I don't know. Dear Nelly Goodrich, Dear Nelly Goodrich, is that psychedelic? I don't think so, you know. And then when that all the Kaleidoscope material failed because of bad distribution in the record company, we changed their name and became Fairfield Parlour. But we were maturing as well. Ed and I were maturing all the time as writers. And I think you can tell that on From Home to Home. Some of the songs, you know, had a different feel. We were playing more instruments. I mean, interestingly enough, there are 2 songs on From Home to Home, which are actual leftovers from when we were Kaleidoscope. I remember Sunnyside Circus and In My Box were both real Kaleidoscope songs. But after that, I mean, Aries, Emily Brooke, Confetti, the drummer boy from Shiloh. I mean, you know, we've moved on, as you can tell from the music.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and songs like off from Fairfield Parlor, is it Free?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's just beautiful.
It's interesting when you say that, because you know, I when I occasionally speak to people about the band, everyone's got their own favorite sort of songs, which is nice. I like that. You know, I like to think that you know, we covered all bases, keep everybody happy. You know, everyone says, "Oh, the Sky Children, oh, the Sky Children, the Sky Children," which is lovely. You know, it's nice. It's nice to think everybody loves that so much. But I do like to hear something like that when you say Free, because not many people mention that. But yeah, it's a quirky little song. It's an odd little song, but you know, you can't. You know, I never explain my lyrics. If you said to me, "What's it mean?" I wouldn't want to tell you, because I've no idea, and all I'm trying to do is put, you know, lines together to create pictures, to create images in your mind, and together with the music, create, you know, some sort of little story that you can interpret in your own way. I don't, you know, talk about the actual lyrics themselves.
Yeah, and well, I think I enjoy how you do that. You leave it open for interpretation.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
still do that. I still enjoy doing that. You know, I like to tell a story, but I don't like to spell it out absolutely. You know.
yeah. It gets boring because it's too obvious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So was the Fairfield Parlor the same lineup in the
No,
band?
we've always been together. Just the
Okay.
4 of us. We always were, which, you know, is not normal, is it? You know, bands that have been together. I think we were together for sort of like 8 years before we finally called it a day. But one of our managers tried to introduce someone into the band, but none of us were keen about it. I mean, we're just such a tight knit band that
Mm-hmm.
that was us. You know, we were in it from that first day at the school. When I went there on my 18th birthday, that was it. There was the 4 of us.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah, yeah, but it helped, I think, along the way. You know.
So let's talk. I asked you before when we were messaging, just some songs that you're most proud of over the years. You said Dream for Julie, Sky Children, Flight from Ashia, Aries song from John.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Aries and song. Well, Aries from Home to Home. I mean, that's pretty much autobiographical. Aries, you can hear that in the lyrics. Song from John, I just love. Yeah, it's from White Faced Lady, and it's a very complex song and very complex musically as well. White Faced Lady was, you know, a very sad tale, as you probably know. I mean, you know, Vertigo were going to put it out, and then, like a lot of times, you know, the personnel at the label changed, and we couldn't. Although we were promised a recording contract with his new label, that fell through, and then the band broke up at that point. But yeah, at least, you know, White Faced Lady is out now, and has been for many years. And again, I get some nice emails from people talking about that, which is lovely.
Yeah. What year did the band break up?
I'm sorry.
What year did Fairfield
Well, it
Parlor?
was sort of 71, I suppose, around 72. I mean, we did do a gig in 74 in Germany, and um, Bordeaux Rose was re-released a few years after that, I think, as well. So it sort of dribbled on, but we all knew we'd lost the momentum. You've got to strike while the iron's hot, and we had that period with Kaleidoscope. We had it with when we became Fairfield Parlour, and there was excitement about the album and the single Border Rosé. But once it started to fall apart, I don't know. Some people would carry on going or change their approach, become a pop band or something, but that wasn't for us. We were all getting married as well and getting older. It's the way of bands. There must be thousands of bands in the same position as ours that struggled for years, came very, very close, but never made it. It's all water under the bridge. It doesn't matter now. I don't care now because there's no pressure on me now. I can make music my own way and not have to worry about hit records or dealing with labels. Everyone can make music in their own bedroom now. It's crazy, which is great. The only trouble is, there's so much music out there. You've got to try and stand out from the crowd, and that is bloody difficult.
Yeah. Can you imagine if you could record the way you do now with Kaleidoscope?
I think of that, I sent you some tracks. I don't know whether you listened to Petticoat Lane, whether you got it in the end.
Yes.
But I often, if I don't listen to my music once it's recorded, but I had a quick listen to it before I sent it to you today, and I'd have loved to have written that when we were Kaleidoscope back in the '60s. It's not a current sort of song now, but back then I'd have loved to have written something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to see the development of your music throughout the years too, going back. And I haven't listened to everything that you've released. You've done how many albums since?
It's about 20 now on my own, yeah. Well, on my own or with other people. I've recorded with some fabulous musicians. I can play some stuff here in the studio and make my own records, which is fabulous. But I don't call myself a musician. I couldn't sit down and play for you now, but I can, because of modern technology, I can do it, a few chords at a time and add some strings, add some bass, which is fabulous. I love doing it. I absolutely adore it. But I also love collaborating with people. I've just released an album with Mark Mortimer and No Escape, which is an extraordinary album. And it's nice to write with other people because they push you in all different directions. They make you sort of try harder somehow. I'm a bit of a perfectionist in my own music, but when it comes to working with other people, you've got up your game, really, But I do enjoy it. I recorded a great album called The Journey with an American band called Asteroid Number 4, which is one of my favourites. Damien Youth, who I've been writing with for many, many years. He and I just fit like a pair of gloves, His music is so close to mine. Mine is so close to his. We've released, I don't know, 3 or 4 albums, and other people I write with. It's just great fun.
Yeah, well, it's nice like diving into what you've been working on because, like you mentioned, Asteroid Number 4, great band. I've played them on my show before.
Yeah,
and Damien Youth. So seeing that you've worked with them and collaborated, and now getting to do this interview with you.
No, they're lovely. They're such a nice bunch of guys. It was another one of those situations where I went over to America to do. I'd done a couple of tours in America. I say tours, one of them was very small. One was across about 7 states, which was fabulous. Ended up at the Austin Psych Fest, but yeah. Going to meet Asteroid Number 4, I thought, oh my God, these way out sort of hippie, sort of psychedelic band I'm going to meet, which they are. They absolutely are. But such lovely people, so good to work with. And again, some of the songs on the Journey album, the songs with Mark Mortimer, the songs, I've done with other people, they're not quite like I would do myself, really. I've got a certain way of writing and singing, and I haven't got a great voice, but people push me. They make me try harder, which is great.
Yeah, well, one thing I appreciate about your work is you stay true to your sound in many ways.
Yeah, well, that's
Uh,
it. Well, it's me, you know. I mean, I write the same way. All right, now it's a bit different than with Ed because I'm writing it all the music and the lyrics. I'm pretty lucky, I think, because my voice hasn't changed a lot. It's deeper than it was, obviously, because of age. But you know, to some extent, I can still sing, which is I'm really sort of humbled by. Really, I'm proud of that, and the fact I can still do it means I want to keep doing it. But then look at the people around. You know, I was just watching Bob Dylan at the Farm Aid concert. You know, he crept on and did three amazing songs, and actually back playing his guitar, which was wonderful. And you know, he just sounds so good. He's 82. So what? You know, I still feel 18. I don't feel any different, which is frightening. You know, because I'm not 18. You know, that was 60 years ago. You know, but how does it happen? You know, when I was a kid, you know, my mum and dad were watching singers of 80 singing. You know, I mean, once you pass 50 or 50, you were gone, you know, but nowadays you can go on as long as you like. The Stones are amazing. You know, you know, he's gonna live forever, isn't he, Keith Richards? There's no stopping him.
that's how I feel about Iggy Pop too. He's on stage and it's like, I'm only 35. I can't do half the moves he does.
Yeah, they do put you to shame when you see. I mean, Jagger must, you know, be in the gym for a month, I suppose, before he goes on tour. But when you see him charging up and down the stage here, and you think the guy is 80, you've got to stand up straight and think, right, you know, you know, if he can do it, you know.
That's awesome. So tell me about, because you have an album coming out soon, correct?
Yeah, we've been working with Think Like a Key, Roger Houdale I think he's moved to Texas now, but he's a wonderful guy. He's got a great band himself, but he started a record label and he's put out Running Through Chelsea, which I recorded with Mark. Again, you know, very pleased with that. It's on vinyl and CD. But yeah, I've got an album coming out called The Leopard and the Lamb, which will be available hopefully at the end of this year. And then with the band, with Dan, we're working on a definitive Kaleidoscope box set, which will be every track we ever recorded, including demos. When Ed used to play me the songs in his bedroom, as many times I could, I took a little tape recorder up and recorded the songs. So I've still got those myself, those recordings of Ed singing them. And on some of those songs, which I love so much, I've re-recorded them as well. So hopefully that's all going to be in the box set. But it's a very, very slow process because we're trying to deal with Universal, which is a global record company, and then we don't mean anything to them. So it's taking much more time than it needed to. But we will get there.
Yeah. And it was right. So like Kaleidoscope, Flamingo was a label on that it was on, or was it Vertigo?
With Flamingo Music was the publishers.
Okay.
But the label was Fontana and then Vertigo. But it's all now under the umbrella of Universal. They bought out all those labels, and we're just minnows in a stream. I mean, they don't know who we are even, so dealing with them is pretty difficult.
Yeah,
We'll get there. We'll get there.
How do you feel? I don't know if you're aware, if you look on Discogs, how much Tangerine Dream is going for on Discogs.
Yeah, I did see an advert probably last year. I think Tangerine Dream. I think there was one on there for £3,000 or $3,000, which, excuse me, doesn't mean anything to me, of course, because it doesn't put food on my table. But it's if it's any indication of what people think of the band, then that's great. But I think I don't think those people sort of paying that sort of money aren't going to even play the record. They're just dealing in it, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't want to put them down, but I would think anyone paying that sort of money is just dealing in records and hoping to flog it on for a bit more money. And probably, they wouldn't even risk playing it, would they?
I know that when you pay that much for something, you're too scared to play it. So,
Yeah.
jumping back
We got
to,
10 minutes, it's telling me. So.
okay, what, you mentioned a couple songs from your upcoming album.
Yeah,
I,
there's I mean, I sent you a couple there, which it would be wonderful if you play them. I mean, the diary comes from The Leopard and the Lamb, as does Petticoat Lane. I mean, Petticoat Lane is a market in London. I was born in the East End, and Petticoat Lane was just down the road, and every Sunday morning they had a very famous market there, and that's Petticoat Lane is about that, which, if you might have seen the video, is, you know, echoes that. And then the diary is also from the album. Yeah, I was quite pleased with that.
yeah, I listened to both, and I'm looking forward. I'll be playing at the end of our interview.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah. I know we only have a few, not many minutes left. Um, over the decades, so throughout the years, you continued obviously releasing music, writing. You're also a photographer.
Yeah, well, like I said, I live in a beautiful part of the country, so I do enjoy taking photographs, and also, you know, processing them afterwards. I spend a lot of time doing music, but I spend probably an equal amount of time with my photography, which I enjoy. But it's only a hobby. But yeah, I do enjoy it. I've just, I've just discovered AI, and it's
Oh.
I'm, I'm sort of addicted to it. It's a sort of a guilty pleasure, because it's going to change the world. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you can produce some absolutely incredible images with AI, and it's addictive. You know, you keep putting various prompts in and get these amazing images out, even images that you'd swear had been painted. You know, and that's going to affect. I would have thought it's going to affect the art world, but sadly, they're also talking about music, aren't they? Where you can just type in a singer and a style and press a button and it'll come up with a song. And I saw yesterday, I think it was, that Spotify won't ban a music created by AI, which is pretty weird. I mean, I don't like streaming. I hate Spotify and Apple Tunes and all that, because the musicians don't get paid anything. I mean, we just get paid a pittance. You know, I can have over a half year period. Excuse me, I got a sore throat from talking too much. I don't normally talk this much, but over a 6-month period, I get my royalty statement from Spotify, and it's laughable. I mean, I can have, like, I don't know, 50,000-60,000 streams of the Sky Children in particular, which is obviously a very popular one. Wouldn't even buy me a cup of coffee.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the way of the world. I mean, I know people like, you know, Elton John, Taylor Swift, and that, Ed Sheeran, they make a lot of money out of it because they're dealing in millions and millions of streams. But, well, on my level, I can't earn any money out of my music anyway. I mean, that's beside the point. It doesn't bother me anymore. But you know, there should be a fair payment if these companies are taking on these streams, these tracks. I mean, the record companies, again, still take the lion's share of streaming, but the artists themselves, it is tiny fractions of a penny.
Yeah, there needs to be definitely more laws and regulations on that.
Yeah, yeah, it's a sad state. I mean, when we took control away from the record companies to some extent, which was instigated by the punk movement, which was fabulous. I love some of the punk music. And, you know, they started making music themselves, you know, run off 27-inch and sell them and run off 20 more. But they were doing it themselves. They didn't need a big label. And so that opened it up for all of us.
Yeah,
You know, those of us who are unlikely to get a proper recording contract, it opened it up for all of us. But of course, on the other hand, as I said earlier, now anyone can make music, and there's so much of it. Hopefully, the cream will come to the top. But it's difficult to stand out. It's difficult, but I just stick to my guns.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite punk bands that you got into?
Well, oddly enough, I mean, some of the Sex Pistols, Pretty Vacant is a great song. It's a really great track. Susie and the Banshees I used to like. I don't know their names particularly, but the Clash, and there's some individual songs. I mean, not all of it, but individual songs had a real energy, and two fingers up to you sort of attitude, which again was refreshing, because having gone through all that real prog period and glam I often say I'm glad Kaleidoscope didn't go into the 1970s, because I'd be walking around in satin and a top hat with mirrors on, having been the dandy in the band, I'd have been full on satin, So I'm glad there's no photos of me strutting around in 6-inch heels and with a mirrored top hat on.
What did you get into anything? Were you inspired by anything throughout I mean, for me, the 80s is more difficult to be inspired musically, because I'm not.
I didn't listen to music, to be honest. Once the band broke up, I avoided listening to it to some extent, and then I don't listen to it now. I mean, I'm deaf in one ear. I can only hear out of one ear, which is a real pain, because when I'm recording, that presents great difficulties. So I don't listen to music. I mean, even my heroes like Bob Dylan, I've no idea what his later albums were. I'm just stuck way back there, and Highway 61 and Blonde on Blonde. But the new album he did, the Rough and Rowdy Ways, was just breathtaking. I mean, the guy at that age is still writing masterpieces. Key West was just such a wonderful song. So no, I couldn't tell you anything from the 80s or 90s or 2000s. I have no idea, and I can't. The new music now, I just I'm a grumpy old man.
I consider Bob Dylan one of the first punks of music.
Well, Bob is just a phenomenon. I mean, the man's a genius. There's no doubt about that. Lyrically, musically, and he's an absolute icon. I mean, you only got to look at any photograph of him for a start. The man's extraordinary. He just is. I dread the day when he goes.
Yeah, definitely. So if you don't listen to a lot of music, so bands like Asteroid Number 4 or Mark, they reach out to you to collaborate.
Oh yeah. I couldn't name any new band at all. Not at all. And the fact that bands like Asteroid are still enjoying psychedelic elements in the music is great. But like I said, we moved on. The new album with Mark Mortimer, Running Through Chelsea, we didn't consciously do it, but we avoided being psychedelic. I mean, otherwise that would be just hashing over old stuff. So no, I write with other people. I just write the way I always have, and sing as much as I can the way I have. It's just nice, as I say, to collaborate and be pushed out of my boundaries a bit, but just enjoying music still, which is it's a gift. I enjoy using it.
Yeah, it definitely shows too, just how passionate you are through your new music and the works and your writing. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing with us.
Thank you very much, and thank you for asking me, because it's still, like I say, it's just nice to know that people remember the old band, and if people are interested enough to dip into my music, they won't find it far removed from what they like with Kaleidoscope and Fairfield Parlour.
Well, thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.